public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. The public defender's office is the trained investigator. It is from him that the public defender receives the majority of the information used in the defense of his clients. One such man is Edward McGrath, investigator, public defender's office, Los Angeles, who worked night and day to get me the facts on case 37423.
People versus Wade Layton Foster. Do you have an attorney?
No, sir.
Do you have the money to employ an attorney?
No, Your Honor, I don't.
Public defender appointed.
That afternoon, I had my first interview with my client in the lawyer's room on the 10th floor of the Hall of Justice. His charge, armed robbery. His plea, not guilty.
And so you see, Mr. Matthews, I wasn't even in California at the time they say the holdup took place.
And that was on May 29th at about 11 a.m.
I was in Las Vegas, have been since last Christmas.
Did you have a job?
Oh, yes, sir. I worked for Mr. Bascom. He owns the Desert Flower Land Development Company. I was a salesman, a good one.
And why were you let out?
Well, you can't sell much land when it's 120 in the shade.
No, I guess not.
So I sold my car and headed for L.A.
What kind of a car?
Oh, didn't get much for it. It was a 46 Ford Coupe.
Color?
Blue.
And when did you get to Los Angeles?
Well, this is Tuesday, isn't it?
Yes.
It was 4 weeks ago today, July the 3rd.
Can you prove that? I mean, with the ticket stub from the bus or train, you know.
Oh, no, I hitched rides. Must have had about 10 of them.
And you can't remember any of the people who picked you up?
No, sir.
Now, it says here that you were picked up on a vagrancy charge in the Pershing Square area on July 10th. Your property file shows that you only had $1.12 at the time.
Well, you know how it is, Mr. Matthews. A fellow who lives in Vegas for a while thinks he's pretty good with the dice. Some boys on the east side proved me wrong.
I see. How did the police tie you in with the robbery?
Well, I guess I was in Lincoln Heights jail about 3 days. They found out I was a two-time loser. Oh, but that was a long time ago, sir. So every day they pushed me in the show-up, figuring somebody'd pin something on me.
There's the one, that one, the second one from the right.
Foster, step out.
He's the one who stole the money. He's the one who did it. I never forget a face.
And she said, there's the one who did it. But, Mr. Matthews, I didn't even know what I was being accused of until the preliminary hearing.
At which time you pleaded not guilty.
Yes, sir.
Now, do you know anyone in Las Vegas whom we could contact who could testify that you were there on May 29th?
Well, sure. The guy I worked for, the lady who runs the motel I lived at, and my girlfriend. She'd remember.
Fine. Could I have their names and addresses?
You believe me, Mr. Matthews. You believe I'm innocent.
If I didn't, Wade, I'd advise you to change your plea to guilty. Oh, and will you make a reservation on the 9:30 flight tonight for Las Vegas? Come in? No, Ed McGrath is, Gene. I'll have him pick up the tickets from you. Yes, right. Mrs. Blair, I'm sorry to bring you all the way downtown, but since you're the one who identified Mr. Foster...
Well, I'm getting quite used to it.
You know Mr. McGrath, my investigator.
Oh, a private eye. How nice.
Mrs. Blair, I've been going over the crime report, and your description of the suspect and the man now being held for the crime does not coincide.
But that's not possible.
Would you mind telling us once again, Mrs. Blair, what really happened?
Well, it was the 29th of May, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
And we were having our annual charity golf tournament. I'm co-chairman, you know. And there were thousands of people. Well, it was about 11 o'clock because the last foursome had just teed off, and we were left quite deserted at the gate. Mr. Mooney, the treasurer of the club, was helping me put the money away when this man walked up. That'll be $2, please. You'll have to hurry if you're going to get your money's worth. I'll never forget it. There was the gun pointing right at me. I couldn't take my eyes off it.
Now, that being the case, how were you able to identify my client in the police show-up?
Mr. Matthews, you're twisting my words.
No, Mrs. Blair. I just want to know why you say here that the suspect was blonde, and yet you identified my client who was dark-haired.
Well, he was wearing a hat.
That's not in your report, Mrs. Blair.
Doesn't?
No, it's not.
Well, he was young, and I thought he was wearing a hat. Is that better?
Why didn't you call for help?
Oh, we did. But by that time, he was in his car and away.
Do you know the make of the car?
Oh, these new models, they all look alike to me.
Do you remember the color?
Oh, that I remember. It was red.
Did you get the number of the plates?
Plates?
The license number.
My dear man, without my glasses, I could barely see the car.
Mrs. Blair, your estimated loss was $2,700 in small bills and silver. Were there any checks?
No, it was all in cash.
You've been a big help, Mrs. Blair. Thank you for coming down. Well, Ed, I think we're making headway.
What's the next step?
Here's a list of names and addresses in Las Vegas. I want you to check on Foster's alibi.
Las Vegas in August? It's hot, Bart.
Cools off in the evening. You're on the 9:30 plane tonight.
Excuse me, can I see you a minute?
Yeah.
You Margot Lane?
You a cop, or do I owe you money?
Do you know a Wade Foster?
Yeah, he used to come in here.
When'd you see him last?
Listen, mister, why all the questions?
Well, here's one reason.
What's he done?
We hope nothing. Maybe you can help us prove it.
That table, we can talk over there. I'm sorry, Mr. McGrath. You got a lot of questions from a lot of characters in a place like this.
Sure, I know how that is. You work here, huh?
Sort of. I'm a shill. Play on the house money when things get slow. How's Wade?
Oh, here's his latest picture. You like Wade Foster, don't you?
I like him better without a number. What's he up for?
Armed robbery in L.A.
Oh, no. When?
Last May, May 29th.
May 29th. May 29th in Los Angeles?
Mm-hmm.
Why, he couldn't have. He was with me here.
You know about that? That was over 2 months ago.
Well, I remember I had the day off because of a holiday weekend coming up. Wade said if he closed the deal, we'd do the town that night.
A deal?
Yeah, he had a date with some rich guy at the Peacock Inn to sell him some land. That was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
What time did you meet him?
About 8.
How about the deal?
Oh, he closed it. We spent the commission that night. $50. We did the town.
Well, what about the night before, May 20?